Greetings VisionLink users, and welcome to this unified productivity tutorial, Productivity with Cycle Volumes. You can see that I have set up my dashboard to entirely view the cycle and volume information for my group of assets. I have also filtered each of these assets to view all of my assets for the cycle counts, the estimated volume and the average estimated volume, as well as my cycle counts for just my articulated trucks based on the product family, and my cycle counts for my wheel loaders specifically. Every time that I log into this dashboard, I will see this view and be able to scroll through all of my summary widgets, and I'll be able to use these widgets to view my productivity today from a volume and a cycle count perspective compared to the targets that I've set for all these assets for today, the current week, and the current month, and then use these widgets to actively filter my information so I can view my tables and graphs. I've configured my entire productivity view to just look at the relevant information for cycle tracking and volume tracking. The total cycles for all the assets are displayed at the top, and using my filters, I've set this to view just the articulated trucks for the current week. I can see my hours or average cycles per hour, my total estimated volume for all of those assets over the date range, total payload if reported, as well as my idle percentage for all these assets. I can sort in any of these columns to bring the most relevant information to the top, and if I go to my column settings, I can configure this view to just look at the information that I want to see. So here, I'm only looking at the cycles and the volumes. Estimated volumes are always coming from the cycles, so every time we count a cycle, we'll count volume associated with that. This is done by selecting the assets that we're looking to monitor, then going to the Actions bar and selecting Show or Edit Target Values. This brings up the edit values in VisionLink Administrator for these 6 selected assets, where I can then put in the estimated volume for each of the cycles for all these assets. Every time the cycle counts, I will associate that volume with that cycle. I can enter estimated runtime targets, estimated mileage, as well as set the targets for each of these assets over a given date range, and also specify this over a particular day of the week, or set the same target for every day of the week. Going back to Unified Productivity, if I click on a single asset, I can start to inspect the individual cycle details for this particular asset. For this asset, it is configured for load and cycle operations. This is done in VisionLink Administrator using the Configuring Projects and Assets, so any of this information that comes in will be visible from the singular asset view in the table as well. When I go back to Unified Productivity, I can see a view of all the assets once again, and I can click on the graphs to view the productivity of my assets. The productivity graphs for cycle counting are the estimated volume, which shows target versus actuals over that date range, the cycle count graph, the estimated volume per runtime graph, estimated volume per fuel when reported, and cycles per runtime. Each of these graphs are clickable that show the details of the actuals compared to the target and all the net difference, the actual cycles for that particular day, as well as the cumulative to that day, the idle that is reported, and the number of assets reported. If we click View Asset List, this will take us back to the productivity table to view this information. All of the graphs are configurable by going into Settings to choose which graphs you want to see, as well as the information that will appear in the window according to what you're using to track your productivity. In this case, we're only using volumes and cycles and compare those on a daily or weekly basis. From the daily view, we see a breakdown that is summed up for each day, but if I click Hours, this will show me a comparison of my productivity on an hourly basis throughout the entire day's work. This gives me a good comparison of what my most productive hours are and areas where I'm lacking. I can quickly change between my cycle counts and my volumes. Remember, if the volume is not configured in the settings, the volumes will not come through for each of the cycles. So a good place to check for this is the asset settings. I can quickly go back to my list or to my dashboard and use that to actively filter my setup in my dashboard. Previously, I was looking at my articulated trucks. I can further inspect my wheel loaders to see my loading units and the cycles that were recorded there, or I could go and view all of my assets. VisionLink Unified Productivity with cycle volumes. Thank you very much.